So now on the show, I want to take a look at a brand new Australian documentary that has just been released into cinemas. The documentary is called Ablaze, and it's a documentary that looks at one of Australia's first Aboriginal filmmakers, William Bill Onus. Now, the film has been put together by his son, and it came about in a really interesting way. The Australian Film, Radio and Television Archive in Canberra suddenly found a roll of film that contained a film that had no soundtrack to it, and they had no idea where the film had come from. They had no idea if it had been there for years or whether someone had just put it in there in recent years. Anyway, the film itself ended up being viewed by Bill Onus's son, who directed and wrote this documentary and features in it in a big way, because he realized that one of the frames featured his father. Now, he started to put together the pieces for this film and suddenly started to realize that some of the other people depicted in the actual film were other relatives of his. And through speaking to various relatives, he was able to discover that this kind of almost told Bill's story from the Christian mission that he grew up with near the Murray River through to living in Fitzroy. Now, while he was doing this, he also found out that his father was actually one of the forefathers of the Aboriginal equal rights movement in Australia, because he soon discovered that his father was not only a filmmaker, but he was a very proud man who had stuck up for Aboriginal rights over a number of years, going right back to World War II. Now, through this documentary, they're able to put together Bill's life in an absolutely amazing way. It shows him meeting with other prominent Aboriginal activists and petitioning the government to treat Aboriginals with equal rights. It also shows him working with World War II returned Aboriginal soldiers that weren't given the same respect as their white counterparts. It looks at him sticking up for the rights of what has to be one of the darkest times of Australian history, and that is Aboriginal slavery. Some of the scenes in this documentary, I'll warn you, are absolutely harrowing. We quite often see how slaves were treated in America, but I think we often forget here in Australia that a lot of Aboriginals were also used as slaves. And Bill Onus was one of the people who exposed the truth right across Australia, that Aboriginals were being kept in chains on farms in Queensland and Western Australia and the Northern Territory. This is an absolutely amazing documentary. The stuff that his son has been able to put together for Ablaze is just absolutely fantastic. There are a lot of interviews with people that knew Bill. There was also footage in this that was taken from ASIO. ASIO was so concerned with the movement that Bill was starting for Aboriginal rights in Australia that the Prime Minister at the time asked for ASIO to spy on him. And through the years, that file has become public knowledge. So his son's been able to use some of the file footage that ASIO had shot while they were spying on his father. I don't know how to put it with this documentary. This documentary is probably one of the most powerful documentaries, I think, that I've ever seen, that looks into the dark days of how Aboriginals were treated in Australia. We talk about films like Rabbit Proof Fence and talk about the importance of those films. Ablaze is right up there. It is a very, very important documentary. So if you have any kind of interest at all in what Aboriginal people have been through in Australia since white settlement, this is a documentary that I would highly recommend that you go along and watch, because it is absolutely fantastic. I'm going to give it 5 out of 5.